So we all remember when Megan said this.
Look, I was really ashamed to say it at the time and ashamed to have to admit it to Harry, especially because I know how much loss he's suffered. But I knew that if I didn't say it, that I would do it. And I just didn't want to be alive anymore.
And yet, why can't Megan seem to remember that she said this? Recently, she sat down for an interview in which she was discussing her help with families whose children have been bullied online to the point of taking their own lives. She seemed shocked that the interviewer would remember that she too said she had been bullied to the point of despair.
I could see you're uncomfortable with my even going there. Do you?
I understand why you are, though. I wasn't expecting it.
Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. My name is Denise. Today we're going to do just a fun little video about the interview that Harry and Meghan did with CBS Morning News on their Sunday special. So this came out a while ago. Obviously, this is not new news, but after doing the video last week about Meghan's hysterectomy and seeing that you guys would really like a little bit more content that's sort of like off the cuff, we had talked about in that episode Meghan being very disingenuous when Jane Pauley in this interview had asked her if she became interested in this topic because of her own personal experience feeling abused to the point of despair. And I had said at the time that I wanted to clip it up for you and have a longer conversation with you, but I wasn't sure how to do that because they talk so fast and loose about the topic that YouTube despises so deeply. But I think I can manage it. But also because there's a lot of things they mentioned in that interview that I kind of wanted to take a second go around. A lot of things that I thought were more problematic than just the fact that she acted shocked that somebody would connect the dots to something she previously said to something she is now doing. It seems so lame that she was so upset at Jane Pauley bringing up her own experiences in that realm and acting like, how dare you? So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit more, talk about that, but also broadly, like, what was that interview? And talk a little bit more about how both Harry and Meghan really telegraph their personalities, even though they're talking about somebody else, but they're telegraphing all their own fears and anxieties and kind of like the way their brains work through this conversation. And of course, it's supposed to be about these grieving parents, but we get a whole dump on of Harry's anxiety that there's no hope in this world. And then we get Meghan constantly trying to talk about herself while she talks about other people, but she still wants it to be about her. So super fearful, anxious guy and super stuck on herself lady. And let me just tell you, those two did not look in love in this interview.
And how did Harry react?
Oh, he's a very loving husband. So I'm here.
That's not like a new thing. I think everybody has already mentioned that Harry looked really put out the whole time and definitely was not willing to be any kind of prop for Meghan to lean on. Like it's so clear he's sick of that. He's so sick of that shtick where she is pawing all over him and he's supposed to be the dutiful husband that like gathers this weeping woman into his embrace. Like I think he's just sick of it. And he knows who butters his bread and he knows he can't go home anymore. So he's like got to sit for these interviews. But I think that he is 100% over this. And I think that if he had it to do again, he wouldn't. But anyway, let's get into the interview. CBS begins the interview by airing this clip from the conversation with the interviewer asking Meghan, it was really hard for you to bring your true feelings and despair to your husband because you didn't know how he would react. Can you tell us about how that went?
Oh, he's a very loving husband. So I'm here. I think, what you're saying to me really also speaks to the courage. Do you know what it takes for them to talk about this experience and how brave they are to talk about this experience for other families and other parents and to relive that grief, but to do it in such a purpose-driven way to help save other children?
Let's notice that Meghan comes over and she reaches out for Harry's leg and she's grabbing his leg. He makes no attempt whatsoever to reach out to her in any way. He's over there adjusting his cuffs. His hands are very much in his lap, very much not like, I'm not even going to put a hand on my leg lest you grab it. Like my hands are over here. They're going to stay over here. You're not going to paw on me during this interview. A little bit awkward. It's a little bit visually dissonant that she's saying that he's this really supportive husband. He's got this really stern look on his face. One could read it as he's just very concerned about the pain that she felt, very concerned about all the things that she's had to live through. But one could also read it as, here we go with this BS again. Because I think that if your spouse had truly been struggling with like deep, deep darkness, and you two are truly each other's ride or die, for them to be interviewed and discussing that dark moment, you'd like at least put your arm around the back of the chair. When she goes to grab your leg, you'd put your hand on top of her hand, like something to reinforce the idea that I'm here. And I bet this is hard for you to talk about. Don't forget that I'm here for you in the dark. Like you would try to do something to let your partner know. But the thing is, it's all, it's all fraudulent and it's all just a great big fat facade. And that's what we talked about in the last video. It's all fake. And I don't know how many of you truly believed that she was really on the brink of despair. I truly never believed it. And I know you're not supposed to doubt it when people say these things, but I doubt it, and I bet some of you guys doubt it. And it looked to me like Harry also doubted it. Like, oh, here we go again. We're here to talk about these other people's pain and grief, but you're always making it about you. Meghan has always feasted on the grief that was in Harry's life. She's like a monster like that. Nothing makes her happier than to pull up to a table of somebody else's grief and feast and like get fat on it. If somebody else is suffering, she automatically wants to come in and make it all about her. And she saw Harry, this person who had a very unique upbringing, who had lost his mom, who had felt a bit cast about in the world, not sure which way to go. And she immediately zeroed in on it. And then she wanted to make his life experience her life experience. She wanted to take on his mantle of suffering from his youth and like cozy up to it and be like, I can get attention by being with this person who struggled a lot. And I truly think that's one of the reasons she was drawn to Harry rather than somebody else who was a little bit more emotionally stable, because Harry would not even notice that she was reaping the benefits of the attention that he received because of the sadness in his life. He would just see it as this person who's like come to help him. And because he is so deeply in need of a maternal spirit, he completely misconstrued this viper who snuggled up to him as somebody who wanted to come and take care of him. Anyway, yet again, we see in this interview, Meghan coming alongside people who are grieving and being like, let me have a little bit of that. Meghan is being asked about her experience, and she makes kind of this awkward thing about being asked about it, which is it's the most clear thing in the world that the interviewer would say to Meghan, this must be a cause very dear to your heart, considering your own struggles with darkness. And she's awkward about it. In this particular clip, I want you to notice the way her face changes when she's trying to telegraph to the interviewer, I am so brave for talking about my struggles. The fact that you're delving into my pain makes me so brave. And quite frankly, you had no business talking to me about the things that were hard for me. Quite frankly, I should receive a reward. So she's talking all about the families, the victims of this online bullying. And she's talking about, really what you're saying to me is that these people are so incredibly brave. So incredibly brave to talk about pain, so incredibly brave to bring to the forefront all these things, all of their grief. And watch how her face changes. Watch how her face changes when she says that, because what she's trying to tell the interviewer is, I'm so brave for bringing this up, and it's kind of appalling that you would just dig into my grief like this. Watch.
Do you know what it takes for them to talk about this experience? And how brave they are to talk about this experience for other families and other parents, and to relive that grief, to relive that grief, to relive that grief.
Did you see? Did you see the face change? Did you see the edge that she took? Trying to really point a finger at the interviewer, kind of create this power imbalance of, you thought you were running this interview, but let me tell you who's the boss babe in this room, okay? And she's trying to convey this sense of worth to herself, that she would be willing to discuss something that is, really third rail, that somebody would ask her about these things, but she's brave enough to go there because that's the kind of person she is in the pursuit of healing for all of this grief. Then we get on to another portion of the interview where they're asked about the families that they've been working with, supposedly for 2 years. Now, the interviewer says to them at one point in this interview, it's kind of a small group of people. It's not like hundreds of thousands of people in this little group. And, you almost want to say, well, thank God for that. I would be appalled if there was millions of parents who had suffered this horrible, horrible, horrible tragedy. I am absolutely not saying that it's not happening. I'm not, but I'm just saying, like, do we want this to be a huge group of people? So in Harry and Meghan's defense, I almost want to be like, well, thank God it's a small group. But then at the same time, it's this small group that they've supposedly been working with for 2 years. I don't know how in-depth their help is. And judging by their answer to the interviewer's questions, it would seem that they kind of have done their trademark thing, set up a big show and then never show up. You know, you want your name stamped on it. You want people to know that you're associated with this, but you don't actually want to do any of the work. So Megan's response to questions about like, so what's it been like working with these families? You know, have you seen a trajectory towards healing? Her answer is basically like, yeah, well, we set it up and like, but like what I'm really excited about is like what they do when we're not around. Like that's actually the most important thing. The most important thing is how they're doing when we are not there.
From my perspective, they have their groups that we help to convene, but then it's what they do when those groups aren't in session. We were able to help plant a bit of a seed of connection for them, but if there's a need for it, you're watching it grow, and the expansion of that, I think, has been very powerful.
Then she says the most ridiculous thing. She basically says, the silver lining to the fact that their children are no longer here because of online bullying. Silver lining is that they have a whole group of friends now they never would have met before, like who are from all different walks of life, like people that they would never have given a second look to or even considered that they could be friends. You know, it's like it's really hard. It's really tragic. It really stinks that their kid's not here anymore. But the awesome thing is they have like a ton of new friends now. And that's really what it's all about. And that's really a life lesson for all of us to realize that pain can bring us together. And, we're all just the same underneath. And everybody is just really honestly the same. But like the pain kind of helped them realize that they can have new friends who like don't see the world the way they do in other aspects.
Because they all come from such different walks of life. So when things can feel so polarized or disconnected, you go, these are people that at face value you would think have absolutely nothing in common. And the pain of what unites them is a sad and a devastating truth, rather. And yet through that, they've found deeper connection with each other. So I think that's one of the most healing things, is being able to say maybe they're more alike in so many ways than they are different, which is a good reminder for all of us.
I'm like, okay, I'll take my kids any day over having a couple of friends that I wouldn't have previously thought could be, my best buds. What is that paltry little bit of do-goodery in her mind that I am so proud of myself because I brought all these people together who like wouldn't have been together before. So we've seen Megan act shocked that somebody would bring up something that was as obvious as it could be. We've seen Harry clearly not happy to be there. We've seen Megan try to act as though the victim's bravery is actually her bravery. And we've seen her try to come up with this like meaningful, inspirational message through loss that just falls flat. But the thing about this interview that I thought was really interesting was we have all come to expect to see Megan make a scenario about her. She always does. Recently, as a side note, did you guys see when she was in Colombia and she was doing this women's conference about women helping women, right on brand for Megan? She learned how to say women helping women in Spanish, you guys. So that was her main contribution to the experience. But she's over there and she's supposed to be doing a panel with these women, and she decides that the fan isn't on her adequately enough. And so she hops up out of her seat. She prances across the stage. She adjusts the fan for all the ladies. She takes her seat. Sorry, guys. Takes her seat. And then like everyone in the audience and the women on stage are like, yay, look at you, women helping women. We were hot. We got the fan on our face. And she completely uses this moment that is supposed to be about something else to get the attention on herself and make it about her and make it about like, see, do you see how I adjusted that fan? That's because I believe in women helping women. Women are fixers. We do things for other people. And that's just a small example of what I mean. Like, I wouldn't even be shocked if she had made sure the fan was maladjusted so that she could get up to adjust it. It felt so theatrical to me. But that's exactly what she's done in this whole time in this interview. And that's who we know Megan to be. How can I bring the attention on myself? We're all here for this conference about women helping women, but I'm going to get up in the middle of it and like play act to you what, in a small little way, I'm going to give you a little example of what that looks like. So all eyes are on me. And it worked because now there's videos all over YouTube about people being like, look at Megan, look at Megan. So that's who we know her to be. But Harry also displayed who we know him to be in this interview. Harry didn't talk as much in this interview. It was mostly Meghan talking. But when the interviewer asked him some questions, he really exposed the fact that his whole worldview is as a victim to whatever is happening. It seems that he does not believe in agency whatsoever. Look at the way he looks at the way the world works. I would be devastated. Quite frankly, if there was a person who would have ideations between the two of them, I would definitely have assumed it was him, not her. Because he truly has a hopelessness to the way he looks at the world. And this is what I mean. The interview he's talking, and he's like, back in the olden days, you used to be able to believe that your children were safe under your roof. But now they could be in the next door, playing on a tablet, going down all kinds of rabbit holes. The next time you turn around, they're dead.
Is the fact that it could happen to absolutely anybody. I mean, we always talk about, in the olden days, if your kids were under your roof, you knew what they were up to. At least they were safe, right? And now they can be in the next door room on a tablet or on a phone and can be going down these rabbit holes. And before you know it, within 24 hours, they could be taking their life.
And you're sitting there thinking, well, no, I mean, it actually doesn't have to be like that. You know, it's like, well, I mean, truly, the internet is a dark, dark place. And no responsible parent would just have tablets littering the house where, you know, the kids can get on 000 controls on the internet, absolute freedom reigning with whatever your kid's looking at. Like, absolutely your kid will get sucked into something that they shouldn't be looking at. 1000%. And even if it's not like the darkest realms of the internet, there's just so much trash out there. Like, does your kid need to be on TikTok all day? Does your kid even need to be watching YouTube all day? Absolutely not. I can tell you that much right now. So he's acting like it's completely out of a parent's control. Like, this could happen to anyone. And that's what he says. This could happen to anybody. But I'm like, but it couldn't actually happen to anybody. I mean, just hear me right now. I am not blaming the parents that this has happened to. It is such a tragedy. And I think that we are learning more and more and more about our need as parents to protect our kids and how to do that. And there's different technologies and there are different gadgets and things that we can use so that we don't have to like go and be Amish people. We can still live in the world, but we're learning how to protect our kids in this really dangerous world. But the idea that, you know, it could happen to anybody, like, it couldn't happen in my house because my kids, we don't even have a computer the kids can get on. They don't have tablets. We don't even have a TV. I'm clearly very much in the world. I make YouTube videos as part of our family's money. So it's not like I'm completely disengaged from the world, but they don't have any business being on a tablet by themselves. If we're watching something together. Even the movies that they watch, I watch the movies first before they watch the movies. It's like that because that's my job as a parent. So this idea that Harry's trying to act like, at any moment, our children are going to fall down a rabbit hole, be bullied to death, and then that's it. And you never know. It's like, but you do know, Harry. You're not a victim. You have agency. That part of the interview, he's doing these very rehearsed lines. He'd clearly prepared to say that. But then we start to see him get a little bit more emotional, and his anxieties are ratcheting up as he considers the fact that there's really nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do.
At this point, we've got to the stage where almost every parent needs to be a first responder. And even the best first responders in the world wouldn't be able to tell the signs of possible suicide. Like that is the terrifying piece of this.
Problem is that no parent can actually be prepared for this. There's no way for you to actually know that your child is about to take their own life. Absolutely none. Do you know that even the world's best first responders, it's over for them. They wouldn't be able to tell that it was going to happen. So what is your hope? It's like, well, then what are we doing this for? Like, if there's no hope and everyone, you know, all the kids across America are just like one click away from ending it all, like, then what are you doing? What is this establishment you're trying to create if it's all for naught? It's nihilism is what this poor soul is sucked into. It's like, well, it's all for naught, isn't it? That's the way you see the world, that there's no way to stop it and this is just what's going to happen and I'm just a victim to it. Then what hope is there for Harry? The interview was wild. It was wild because it just showcased them so blatantly for who they both are. A woman who is completely consumed by herself. Overall, like, you know, she's very put together. I thought she looked really nice. Can we just say that was a beige outfit and I guess it's not the monarchy that was holding her down? Meghan's always been a very beige Betty. I mean, I don't know who she thinks she's kidding. Every time I see her, she's wearing beige, but it looks good on her. She presents fairly well. I know everybody just like loves to hate on Meghan, you know, but you know, objectively looking at this picture of them side by side, I just thought she looks nice today. You know, I'm not so petty that I can't admit it.
I thought she looked nice. But that's the thing. It's like she's all about like the exterior and, I'm going to sit here and, seem like I am just like very put together and my voice is very controlled and I'm not over emotional about anything. And I'm just, I'm really just here to help the people, and she just has this way about her that, it's a very cultivated way, because at the same time she wants to appear casual and fun, like her getting up in the middle of that one women's event to go and turn off the fan and to walk back and be like, sorry, I had to fix it. She has this very practiced way about her where she's constantly trying to be appealing to you. And it's a very practiced kind of likability that I do not trust, and I reject. I reject it, full stop. And that's why, with Harry, Harry has made a lot of terrible mistakes in his life. But I think Harry's greatest thing is that he has fallen victim to this idea that he is a victim. And I don't think that there's any way for him to get out of that at this point, because he truly believes that the perspective that he has is the correct perspective. And while I really dislike Meghan because I dislike her practiced ways, even though Harry has done a lot of things that are completely wrong, I think he's treated his family really badly. I just look at the two of them as him being the more mentally weak one. And so I automatically have more empathy for him. I feel like he is not incredibly sharp. And I think that because of that, he's just not been quite sure how to make up his own mind about things, and has really his whole life relied on other people to tell him how he's supposed to feel. And I don't think that he has the tools to even at this point tell why he's so unhappy. And so I do have more empathy for him, and his discussion about how, there's no hope. Basically, this is coming for any kid at any time, and you as a parent could never know it. Like, that's the way he views the world. And I'm sorry for a person like that. Whereas Meghan's always been an operator. The final thing I'll say about this, because I was listening to something this morning when I was getting ready, and I thought, oh, that is really interesting. I see Harry in that. There was a study that was done to study this whole victim mentality that people so readily fall into. And the study was this. They had these women who were going into a job interview, and they told the women, okay, so what we're doing in this study is we want to see the effects of people's reaction to others who have facial disfigurement and see if there is prejudice there. So all of these women are made up to look like they've got scars on their face and facial disfigurement. And after all the makeup was done, the women were shown what they looked like, and then they were supposed to go into the interview looking like this. Before the women went into the interview, the makeup artist would say to them, oh, you know what, hang on, I need to do some touch-ups. In the touch-ups, what she actually did was to remove the scars from the face. But the woman who'd had the makeup done goes into the interview thinking she's still maimed and scarred. When she comes out of the interview, she completely believed, and all the women who went into it were 100% sure they had been victimized. They even had comments that the interviewer had said to them that these women regarded as prejudicial statements due to their facial scarring. But again, remember, they actually didn't have any facial scarring. But they went into it believing that they would be victimized. And so even though in reality there was no reason for them to be victimized, they believed that they had been. Well, to me, that's Harry's whole mentality. He has been told by Meghan, you are a victim. In reality, he is a prince who has social standing beyond anything that anyone could ever comprehend having. And yet he has been told over and over by her that your parents don't care about you. Your society doesn't care about you. You need to make amends for your whiteness. You need to make amends so that you aren't, part of this patriarchy. You need to submit to the idea that you are part of the unending problem in this world. What can you do to make it better? You need to constantly be sorry for who you are. It's never going to get better in this world, but at least you can die knowing that you were aware of that. I mean, he has been completely victimized, and there are no scars on his face, but he is pretending as though there are. All right, that's all I have today for this segment. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll get back to Ask a Not later this week. Bye. Thanks.